Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want us to discuss, could there be a HEX breakout incoming on our price chart, given that we might be following a fractal that we've actually been discussing on this channel for a minute now. So if you like this kind of quantitative, technical, hybrid approach to the HEX charts, leave a thumbs up, be subscribed by the end of the video if you aren't already, and help get us to 2,900 subscribers. We're almost there, so let's go ahead and blast right through that. Road to 3K by July. And let's go ahead and talk about these charts. All right, so to start us off, let's just take a look at the HEX USDC pair on Uniswap V1 because we have all of our history here from when HEX had a legitimate market to current date. And this is obviously just a look at the history so that we can look at what has happened before. So if you've been following the channel for a minute now, then you know we have our regression rainbow, both Fibonacci spaced as well as our equidistant regression rainbow. Now, just a quick review. The pink, green, and red lines are the exact same, and the only difference between these two models are the intermediate bands. So, if let's just choose, let's say, our Fibonacci model. We could choose either one, but in this case, let's choose our Fibonacci model and take a look at what I'm talking about. So, once it's normalized to our fit, we see that we had this fractal sort of play out where we had, again, a peak to align. Here it was green, here it was one lower, yellow, and then we came down to accumulate more or less between the yellow and orange, but obviously with this peak to the green and some price action beneath it. Whereas over here we had a longer extension and it was one band lower where the majority of the accumulation was between the red and orange, yet we had our peak to a band above it, or a line above it, which is our yellow, whereas over here it was our green. So I'm considering this green peak to be analogous to this yellow peak. And if you couldn't tell by now, I'm considering this whole bull flag looking structure on this chart to be this bull flag looking structure on the chart for obvious reasons. This one actually looking stronger, right? Because this bull flag looking formation over here didn't actually reach red or yellow, whereas this one did on both of these points. And then we saw our accumulation here between orange and yellow, which we've seen currently accumulation between orange and yellow, which leads me to believe this could be a fractal. Now, we've talked about all of this. None of this is new, right? None of this is new. And the general thesis here is, well, if we saw something similar play out, well, you saw what happened after accumulation between orange and yellow was done. We popped off to the pink. And then we've also said, well, even if we don't pop off all the way to the pink and just maybe to the purple, that's about half of the same magnitude of a pump. But hey, that is still far from here. It's a nice 4x approximately in price, which would put price at like what, 32 cents? That's pretty good. So, and that's if it were to happen like overnight, when obviously these bands are moving up, these curves are moving up, and so the longer it takes, the kind of higher price points will be our targets. So awesome. All of that you've already seen before on this channel. So what's actually new? Well, there's a technical analysis approach I wanted to take to this exact same fractal. Okay. If you don't have any of these quantitative charts, you can look at the fractal here on your V1 chart, which is why I pulled it up. So back to this. Let's actually show you some of these moving averages. This is we've talked about these, our 21-day EMA, our 20-day MA on our daily chart. And we've had nice support. You can more clearly see it if you look at a line chart, how nicely prices held support on these levels, not only here, but also in the past, like over here, where we had, once we broke above it, it's generally good news. Support on it, generally good news. Once we actually broke it, well, okay. And holding it as resistance, holding this ribbon as resistance, that's when you generally know you're in a downtrend, or once you hold it as support, you're generally in an uptrend, right? We've done videos on this, and you can clearly see that fact here in the charts. So this fractal that I wanted to talk about, right? I'll just show you guys. So I'm going to unhide these drawings right now, and it's this fractal analyzed with this moving average ribbon, as well as price action, as well as RSI, which you can see down below. This is your relative strength index. And if I unhide these drawings, you see that back here, we had bearish divergence on these tops where we were having higher highs on these maxima, yet we did have some sort of bearish divergence, whether you consider it from February 5th to March 24th of 2020, that was a bearish divergence. Or if you consider the same first point, but consider the second point to be April 7th, then it's also a bearish divergence. All I'm saying is it's either here or here. Both of these were higher highs relative to that first one, so they're both bearish divergences, right? And that can generally lead the sentiment to be somewhat bearish, relatively speaking, for those who are in the know of bearish divergences. Yet, like I've said in the past, these bearish divergences, not only can they go on for a while, but they can also be invalidated by a subsequent move. For example, this spike here pretty much didn't care about any of these bearish divergences. It just didn't. Like, then we saw more bearish divergences. We saw another whole ass set of them during this bubble here. So if you look at where RSI was hanging out during this time, it looks pretty damn similar to where we are now. And that's why I'm bringing it up, because if you're to consider, you know, again, maybe this peak to this peak, well, I mean, that's not necessarily a bearish divergence, but you can see that the high here was way lower than the high over here. So you could argue for it slightly, not as much as the one I had drawn over here, which you actually do have two over here, right? So from this point to this point, bearish divergence. And if you look at it, if you skip that middle point and go to the next point, kind of like we did in the fractal over here, where we skipped this middle point and went to the last peak over here, you see RSI was hanging out in similar regions during these bearish divergences. And not only was RSI hanging out in similar regions, actually let's take a look at before I move on to that. Where was RSI hanging out? So around 59 to 60, right? And where are we now? At about 59.7, right? And over here, I actually didn't draw it, but you didn't have hidden bullish, right? It was just your normal RSI. But over here, currently, you could argue we do have hidden bullish divergence, because we more or less have a flat bottom here on the RSI at approximately, what is this, like 55 to 60, more or less, whereas our lows are getting higher, right? So you have this bearish divergence, yet you have a hidden bullish divergence as well. So it's kind of a battle between the bulls and the bears. I would say similar to this fractal over here, which is kind of the whole point of this video, right? Like, I think this could be a fractal over here given three things. We have actually four things. We have our bearish divergence, number one, right? Skipping that middle peak, we have our bearish divergence over here. Skipping the sort of middle peak, we have, or even considering this one a middle peak, whichever you want, we have our bearish divergence. Awesome, check one is done. We're holding support on the 21-day EMA, 20-day MA ribbon with bodies of the candle. That's our second point, check. Third check, we're hanging out around 55, 60 RSI. Okay, check, we're hanging out around 55, 60 RSI. That's our third check. And the fourth one, the obvious one, is from our quantitative analysis. We're consolidating in the same region of overextension from our fit as we were back in 2020 in March, between orange and yellow, which currently actually sits between, let me give you guys an estimate. Oh yeah, I checked earlier. Orange is currently sitting at around 6 cents or so, and yellow is currently sitting at around 8 cents or so. So between 6 and 8 pennies is this region, and we'll see what transpires from here. But I did want to update you guys on this fractal from a different perspective, because again, not everyone has the ability to make these quantitative charts. Another reason to go ahead and check out the website, LookIntoHex.com, so you can see these yourself, real time, updated every single day. First link in the description always. But it's a little easier, I think, if you wanted to do your own analysis to make these sort of TA charts versus making QA charts, because they're kind of hard. And you have to be kind of knowledgeable in spreadsheets and whatnot to make them. So if you wanted to view this fractal from a different angle, well, I think this looks good. Our RSI is hanging out in similar regions. We see similar divergences on the RSI, both bullish and bearish. We see support on our moving average ribbon. And does that guarantee that this is going to happen? Obviously not. But if it were to happen, right? Never financial advice on this channel, but if it were to happen, then what would we be expecting? Well, like I was saying earlier, well, it depends on how far extended we get above our fit. If we were to go to, just say, let's be super conservative and say, what if we just hit blue, just the cyan curve? Let's say July. Well, that's corresponding to 22 cents. let's say we were to hit our purple curve. In July, that corresponds to 35 cents. So again, like I've been saying, depending on how long this move actually takes, if it were to happen, it would change what our targets would be. So just a quick example, if price were to do something like, let's get our brush here. Price were to do something like it did over here. Let's actually take a bars pattern real quick to show you what exactly it would look like if it played out damn near perfectly. So just take a quick bars pattern and take a look at what that would look like. It would look something like this. And this ends at around the 74-cent region, probably because, where's pink right now? Well, pink in July is at about 74 cents. July 12th, July 11th or so. So that would be reaching pink, our pink regression line in July. That's what that would look like if it were to repeat an exact fractal of last year, where it was just our Godwill pump and then our nice finisher rally before some months of consolidation. If it were to play out maybe slightly more methodically and controlled, and you have smarter whales playing so they don't just market buy and become wicks, which, I mean, that didn't happen here, so I mean, could this happen again? Sure. But let's say we're more methodical and, you know, just slow market buys, as we've seen similar whales do. Then let's say maybe it just did something like this, right? Where we just reached our purple band and it actually took us a little longer than it took us last time. Then it would maybe look something like this, putting us in August, late August. And this can play out a whole bunch of different ways, right? Like it probably won't play out like this. Maybe we go sideways and then it's more of like an exponential looking curve. Maybe we actually retrace, right? And then have some sort of recovery and then it's something like that. Like I have no clue what's going to happen. Probably none of these, but hey, we're just speculating here. That's why we're here, right? We're just having fun speculating. Never financial advice. Again, your second generic disclaimer for this video. But I wanted to give you guys kind of another look at this fractal because I think it looks super good and bragging rights are nice, aren't they? So if you enjoy this kind of qualitative, quantitative, technical hybrid analysis on HEX, definitely leave a thumbs up because you're still here. I mean, 12 minutes in, like subscribe, leave a thumbs up, help us get to 3K subs. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on this fractal and this sort of different angle. I actually just kind of came up with this analysis today, to be completely honest, because we've been looking at this obviously for a long time now, at this fractal, which it's easier to tell with colors, but when you look at convergence of all of these other things, it's starting to look good. It's starting to look like we could be in another pre-expansion phase. So just my 2 cents, right? Just my 2 cents. But once again, thank you for your support. Appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.